Welcome to the Teaching Journeys podcast, hosted by Dave Roberts. Humanity possesses a unique skill, the ability to pass knowledge from one generation to the next. This podcast embraces that ability, offering learning opportunities through conversations with extraordinary guests. Dave aims to leave a positive mark on individuals around the world. So before you dive into today's episode, please share this podcast with your network, including friends, family, and colleagues. And please consider leaving a rating or review. Your support makes all the difference.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Teaching Journeys podcast. I'm your host, Dave Roberts, and today it is my pleasure to have as my guest Vishrant. Vishrant is a contemporary mystic, an enlightened spiritual teacher from Perth, Australia. Once a publishing magnate who retired at 28, he encountered Osho's teachings, joined his mystery schools, and underwent a profound near-death experience while lost at sea for 18 hours that awakened him to the reality of unconditional love. He then gave away his businesses to his staff and walked barefoot across Australia for 4 years in search of his heart. Later, he studied naturopathy and psychotherapy, serving people directly in body, mind, and spirit. Today, he lives in a state of beingness, supporting others in awakening, not through belief, but through direct experience and surrender. And with that, Vishrant, welcome to the Teaching Journeys podcast. I've been looking forward to our conversation for quite a while now.
Thank you, Dave. Nice to talk to you.
And got to give a shout out to Noemi Barris. Noemi is a wonderful podcast agent who introduced me to you, and I just loved your backstory, loved the path that you've taken to get to this point, and I really was excited to talk with you, and I'm glad we found alignment for a podcast episode tonight.
Yep. Thank you, Naomi.
You went from gang leader to mystic. Can you outline that whole path, that whole journey, and how it all began?
I can try. At the age of 19, I was on the streets of Perth. I was basically a bikie and I was a gang leader. And I was relatively rough. I liked to fight and I liked to drink. I'd been educated reasonably well. I'd been sent to a private college, but I liked the low life better. And then my girlfriend, who was also a gang member, just got talked into doing a course, a 4-day live-in seminar with an organization called the Greatness in You Seminar, run by Focal. And she'd given them $400, which back in the early 80s was a lot of money. And so I had every intention of getting this money back off these guys that she'd given it to, because I thought it was a total waste of money. I thought it was a con. Anyway, I rocked up and saw them, and they were all in 3-piece suits, and I was in my black uniform with my studded belt. And I said to them, I want the money back. And they said, look, we're not going to give you the money back. Why don't you do the course? And I said, I don't want to do the course. I want the money back. And they said, look, we'll even let you do the course for free if you like. And I said, no, I don't want to do the course. I want the money back. And then they said to me, because I was a hero in my own mind in those days, they said to me, what are you frightened of? And I said, I'm not frightened of anything, because I was a street warrior. And they then said, well, if you're not frightened, why won't you do the course? What's scaring you? And I said, I'll do the course. And that's how they got me in. And then they sat me down before the course began and gave me a psych profile to fill out. And it was a list of questions that took me half an hour to answer. Anyway, the group starts, there's 25 people in it. The lights go out completely, and then a spotlight comes on. And the spotlight comes on me. And they said, you bastard, get out here. And that was the beginning of this group, this encounter group. I got put out the front and they worked on me using my psych profile and my girlfriend for 12 hours. And at the end of the 12 hours, I was still stable. And this little old lady stood next to me and said, when I stand next to you, all I can feel is a rock, a stone. You have no heart whatsoever. And it broke me. It just broke me. And I got so much out of that group. I actually swapped my studded belt and my black uniform for a 3-piece suit. And I went out promoting their courses from then on because I was so impressed with what they'd shown me and how they'd changed my life. And so that was the beginning. Intervention into a street warrior's life who would have probably been dead years and years ago or in prison. And so it was like a saving grace. That led me to doing a personal growth with this organization called Focal for the next 8 years or 9 years. And I did lots of business courses. I did lots of personal growth courses on weekends, usually a weekend retreat. And I loved it. It was just so good. It was way better than physically fighting, having someone tell you what they think of you. And then I ran into more trouble with a different girlfriend. My publishing company was going well. I'd started that. I'd already retired when I was 28 because it was doing so well. And I had 35 staff members, I think, and they all were managed really well, and I didn't have to work. But this girl that I was living with in a really nice property on the ocean front, it turned out she was using heroin. And at that time, I was an anti-drug campaigner. I was putting out a journal called Addicts, which went across Australia to all the rehabilitation centres. And she didn't want to stop using it. And I said, well, you can't stay here anymore. I don't want to live in a house with someone using heroin. And she proceeded to walk around the house smashing things. And she did. She smashed lots of things. And then she left. Anyway, that wasn't the end of the story. I was friendly with the local police force down in Fremantle, and I used to buy them beers. And one of them came up to me and said, we have heard that there is a contract out on your legs to be broken. And I went, what? And they said, yeah, there's this contract being put out on your legs by this guy. And they named the guy, and it turned out to be this girl's ex-husband, the one who I actually asked to leave the house, who had been smashing my stuff. And I couldn't believe it. I had a contract out on my legs. And so I packed up that day and went and lived in Fremantle away from my own house with the Rajneesh organization, with some Rajneeshis. And during that weekend, I did a course with a guy called Indivar. And during the course, I had a vision. And I'm not the sort of guy who has visions. I'm so pragmatic, it's not funny. But in this vision, I was looking down a great big water pipe, like a tunnel, and there was a little Indian at the end of it beckoning me. And I looked at it and I thought, I'm being called. And so I looked at this little Indian, and then I recognized him. It was Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, commonly called Osho. And I thought, wow, I've been called. And here at this stage, I'm a 3-piece suit man, and the orange people wore orange and malas, and it's a very hippie-ish. And so I decided I was going to take sannyas because I felt that I was being called to take sannyas. And so I took sannyas with this guy and swapped my 3-piece suit for orange clothes, red clothes, and wearing a mala. And that caused me no end of trouble. None of my family accepted it. None of my old friends accepted it. My sales staff didn't accept it. It just wasn't acceptable to be that out there. Fortunately, I'd given up trying to obtain people's approval when I was a boy. And so I didn't care. I was going to do what I wanted to do, no matter what. And what I was going to do was become a sannyasin. And so I actually decided to go to America, because Osho was in America at this stage in Oregon. And I decided to go to America and be with him for a while and see what would happen. Now, my girlfriend, who was the same girl that I'd thrown out because we'd got back together again, I'm very forgiving.
It sounds like you were.
We got back together again, and she came with me, paid for her to go to America. And when we get there, she finds out that I've taken sannyas, because by that time I'd put my red clothes on and my beads on. And she freaked right out because she wasn't into it at all. And she assaulted me in the hotel, the Rajneesh Hotel in Oregon, in Portland. And the Portland sannyasins just threw her out. And so I met her outside and gave her tickets and gave her some money to get home, because I thought that's what she wanted to do. And I went on to the ranch to meet Osho to see what was happening there. And she took off. The next day, I'm at the ranch and she's there. She arrives. She stays for 4 months and does 4 months of groups in Osho's mystery school, and so did I. It was wonderful. Then we trekked back to Australia. And it changed my life, because Osho was teaching the way of the heart. And that's something I wasn't familiar with. I was a businessman who was very much into being successful. And all the courses I'd ever done were practically about, how to be successful in the world, how to be a champion, bigger, better, and more powerful.
Yep.
And I got this feeling that Osho was talking about love in a way where you need to become less than, not more than. You need to become open rather than closed. And wow, that was a big change in my understanding of what needed to be in this world successfully. Because a little bit later, and it was the following year, I'd gone out to sea in a runabout, and in this runabout, I had a girlfriend, a different one. And we'd gone out to sea. We'd left at 6 a.m. or something. The cyclone hit around about 7:30, an hour and a half. We were out about 60 miles out to sea. The cyclone hit, and the little boat that I was in, because it was only a runabout, we were meeting a yacht out at the Abrolhos Islands. And the little boat that I was in had hit a bottle or something in the water, and it had gone through the first hull and put a hole in it. And so the whole boat was sunk in the water down to the gunnels. I had a radio, quite a good radio, and I was in touch with rescuers, but they couldn't find us because we weren't showing up on radar because the boat was too small. So it proceeded. 18 hours later, and hypothermic, I actually managed to get in touch with a ship that was about 20 kilometers away. It was called the BP Endeavour. And I said to them, I'm going to send up a flare. You guys take a reverse compass reading off the flare's position and you'll find me, because we were going to die. I was absolutely positive we were going to die. And I was in the water, and I looked across at this woman that was with me, and I realized that I'd caused her death. We were definitely going to die. We were being circled by sharks, and we were sinking. And something came into me, and it was like this love that I'd never felt before, unconditional love, and it was overwhelmingly beautiful. And I think it was a result of being extremely exhausted through hypothermia, very relaxed at the time, and very open. The regret really opened me up, the regret that I'd cost this woman her life. And I just felt this amazing adventure of love. And this is a point that really changed my life. because we did get rescued. We were rescued at 2 o'clock in the morning by the BP Endeavour, which it was an interesting rescue because they wouldn't allow us to come on board because the captain was frightened that they'd be held responsible for our deaths because the seas were so rough. And I was able to start the motor on the runabout and steer it to the nets that the ship had dropped over its sides. And my girlfriend had got off my boat, my little boat, and was climbing up the nets with the help of sailors who'd come down. And by the time I got away from the steering wheel, the boat had drifted away. It was like 20 meters away from the ship, and there were sharks circling my boat. And so I wanted to get rescued. So I dived in the water and swam through the sharks to the nets, and the sailors helped me up the nets. And then we had to climb up this huge ship on nets. And so that was the rescue. But what had happened in that adventure is I'd found heart. I'd had a glimpse of what was possible. And that glimpse changed my whole life because I got involved. I went in my businesses. I realized that I was wearing armor, that being a businessman, even though I'd retired, had me wearing a set of armor. And that armor I tried to take it off and it wouldn't come off. There came a point where I just walked into my offices at the end of that year and gave my companies to my staff. I didn't want to sell them because my staff may have been affected by that and they'd been loyal to me for 10 years. And so I gave them the companies, and I gave my debts, or the money that was owed to me, to my credit controller so he could start himself up a business. And I left that office broke, took my shoes off and walked around Australia for 4 years barefoot looking for my heart because I realized at the age of 33, I was bankrupt. I didn't have heart. I had lots of money, but I didn't have heart because then I really valued what was truly valuable, love. And after 4 years, I discovered my heart and I decided to go back to school so I could be in service to other human beings, because when you find love, you just want to help people. And I trained as a naturopath and I trained as a psychotherapist so I could have some tools to help people with. And that was brilliant.
Yeah.
I loved it. It was fantastic. It was my love affair with humanity. It was my love affair with life. And that lasted for about another 9 years doing that, which was living the way of the heart. And the way of the heart is really simple. You just help other people. You serve others. It's not about you anymore. It's about what you can do for others. And that was very beautiful. And in the presence of an awake teacher who had come to town, because I'd given up on my spiritual growth when Osho died in 1990. But in 1998, this other guy came to town and he was apparently awake. And the moment he walked in the room or the auditorium that I was in, I found myself as the universe, every particle of it being love. And that changed me again. And from then on, I started holding the meetings I hold to this day, which is 27 years later, which are called satsang, meetings in truth, teaching people how to be free of this, free of the mind, and find love as self.
First of all, that's an incredible journey in terms of just opening up to new possibilities and just the power of love in and of itself. And you mentioned, I was read someplace that one book I was recently reading that the protagonist was told, if you want to help yourself, help somebody else first. And I think there's so much truth in that, because when we give of ourselves, I think we're helping ourselves in the process as well too, and we're enriching ourselves because we've opened up our heart to another person.
I think it's the only way to live that's worth living, to be in service of heart, to find a way to help others. that might mean helping animals. It might mean helping the planet in some way, or trees. But instead of just serving yourself, you find something else to serve it, and you serve that.
Yeah. What is it about belief that gets people stuck from your perspective?
What is it about what? Sorry.
Belief.
Oh, all beliefs are prisons. Because when you have a belief, if someone challenges it, you contract. And anytime we contract or go into resistance, we cut ourselves off from the perception of love. Because love is experienced in openness and with a relaxed mind. Love is not experienced with an uptight mind that is in resistance to life. And so all beliefs are basically in the way of the support of love. They're obstacles in the way. And so my journey was removing all beliefs that caused contraction when the expectation on them wasn't met, so I could experience love.
I worked with a lot of clients, Vishrant, the day when I was an addictions counselor that were, I think, imprisoned by their beliefs in terms of, what they interpreted from the messages that they got around them, how they interpreted actions towards them. And I think once they were able to either modify those beliefs in a way that would make them more open to love or more receptive to engaging in a different path, until they did that, they were stuck.
Yeah, I agree. If you have a belief and someone challenges it and you go into resistance, you cut yourself off from love. It's that simple.
Yep.
And so in challenging the beliefs, we undo them. So if they're not there, there's no challenge. There's no going into resistance. Because the worst thing we can do is cut ourselves off from love. There's nothing worse than that.
Yeah.
So I'm the enemy of beliefs.
Well, I think the beliefs that a lot of individuals have, particularly who have gone through their own traumas, you're right, tends to constrict them, and it tends to limit what they can see as their true potential and limit their ability to be present in the world, not only for themselves, but for others who require their presence.
I would agree with that totally. But there's a beautiful way to live in this world, and there's an ugly way. And the ugly way is selfishness, and the beautiful way is selflessness.
Yep.
All the joy in the world comes from giving, all the misery in the world comes from taking.
Yep, absolutely. I would rather, when I leave this earth, I would rather be known as a giver than a taker. That's how I want to be remembered.
Yeah, I don't care how I'm remembered. People can think what they like. While I'm here, though, I'm going to serve love.
Yep. One of the things I think I heard you say on another podcast about truth, about the importance of truth, as opposed to talking, and I'm paraphrasing you. So, in terms of truth over comforting lies, if I believe in truth, I would rather have somebody tell me what it is they're feeling about me or thinking about me. And because I'm kind of figured hopefully if they're doing it out of love. But what is it about the truth that just intimidates people, scares people, that just stops them in their tracks?
Well, I've always been a pragmatic character. I was actually an apprentice mechanic, and mechanics have to be pragmatic. Everything has to be real. You can't have any fluffiness to it.
Yep.
It doesn't work. So my whole life, I've never been into the fluffiness. I've never been into maybes. I'm into what works and what doesn't work. And the truth is what works. Unfortunately, it quite often clashes with people's belief systems. And so they don't buy it. They go in a different direction. But for me, being pragmatic, the truth is, or reality is the only thing that's worth anything, really. And love is reality for me because I'm open enough to experience it. Before I was a businessman, I was too close to experience it, and I considered myself bankrupt. And I'd been bankrupt for 33 years because I hadn't really experienced unconditional love. But love changes everything. It's the the oil that makes everything work. And I am so happy that I found love inside myself. And I'm so happy that I can teach others how to find it. And the teaching is pretty simple. Open up, get real, get out of your head, get into reality, because nothing you think is real. Everything you see is real. Everything you hear is real. Everything you can feel is real. Everything you can smell is real. Everything you can taste is real, but nothing you think is real. And unfortunately, most people live in their heads in a place that's not real while thinking it is real.
So how does Osho's teachings, how does that inform what you do to help people live in the present and get out of their heads?
Well, he taught the way of the heart the same as I am. It's just that I'm a Westerner, so I've westernized it all. I've taken all the smells and bells out of it because I am a realist.
Mhm.
I'm into what works, and it has to have been my own direct experience, not something I've borrowed from someone else's teachings. If it's not my own direct experience, as far as I'm concerned, it's not real. And so I teach reality to people from my own direct experience of what is real, not from guessing or listening to other teachers or listening from a book that I've read in a library, but from my own direct experience. And I love what I do. I love people. I love you. I can't help it because love is actually in the air.
Yeah, I'm hoping our world is going to go through a global transformation where love and inclusiveness and tolerance are going to be the norms as opposed to the exceptions right now. So that's my hope, that there's going to be that kind of global transformation that's going to be based on love, based on truth, and us challenging the beliefs that have kind of kept us stuck.
Yeah, well, that's an individual thing. It's going to be up to the people who are listening
Yep.
because nobody else can do it. You can't wait for someone else to do it. It's up to you.
Yeah, and I believe that, Vishrant, because for me, and I think the more responsibility we can take for our destiny, for our lives, the better off we're going to be, the more empowered we're going to be. We can lay out a really great plan for somebody, but boy, they got to empower themselves to take it, because if they don't, the plan is just a plan, unimplemented.
Yeah, it's totally up to you. You're the only one that can find love inside you. No one else can do it for you.
Yeah.
I can show people the way, but I can't do it for them.
Yep. I can walk the path with you, but I can't walk it for you.
Nah, that's exactly right. I opened me up. I opened me up. I took away the obstacles in me so I can perceive love.
Yep. Walking as you did for the amount of time that you did the movement, did that provide any type of clarity for you or peace, or did that open you up more?
A better question is, why did I take my shoes off and walk around barefoot? That's a better question.
Well, let's go with that question then.
Okay. Well, as a businessman, I had actually spent too much time in my mind being successful at business.
Yeah.
And what I realized is that I was out of touch with reality. I wasn't grounded in my body. And so I took my shoes off and walked around barefoot, because when you do that, you start getting awareness back in your body through your feet, because it's dangerous not to have shoes on. You can hurt your feet. And so the whole event was to get me grounded back in my body and out of my head.
Walking barefoot's a really cool way to connect with Mother Earth too.
Exactly. And I loved it. I loved getting back to reality.
Yeah, I mean, we all need to be grounded in reality, and the good parts of reality as well as the not so good parts of reality. I think that informs us all.
Before we go to school, we are pretty grounded in reality. We're grounded in our bodies to a large degree. Then we go to school and spend 12 years in school and then possibly go to university. problem solving and living in our heads.
Yep.
So by the time we leave school or university, we now have default patterns of living in our heads rather than living in reality. And so most human adults live in their heads. They don't actually live in reality because they live in thoughts and dreams which they think are real, but they're not.
Yep. And we can create that based on the experiences that we have and the pressure that we put upon ourselves. Especially,
Yep.
I talk to my students all the time, and honestly, Vishrant, there's more pressure that they perceive being on them now than I ever had when I was in college. They're dealing with global issues or dealing with the anxiety regarding the unrest in the world right now, financial stuff, and dealing with other categories other than being a student, that a lot of times it becomes very overwhelming for them. So in my classroom, I try to let them know that I love them all, and that I am there for them, not only as a teacher, but hopefully as a mentor for them, and that I'm going to create a safe environment, a safe place, and I'm going to treat them with love and respect.
Well, that works.
Yeah.
That works.
So far it's kept me employed as a adjunct professor for 23 years. So I think I'm going to keep walking on that path, the path of love and tolerance and understanding.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's what the world needs now, more of that.
Geez, we could go into a song. What the world needs now is love, sweet love, but I don't think anybody wants it.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I went there too.
Did you? Yeah. Oh, well, we're on the same wavelength. So, I want to throw out something to you, just a phrase, and I just want you to respond to it. Truth over holiness.
Okay, holiness to me is generally speaking bullshit.
Yeah.
Truth is reality. What's real? You need to have a definition of what's real, and it can't be an idea because ideas aren't real. What you see is real, what you hear is real, what you feel is real, what you think is a dream. But most people live in this dream thinking that it's real. I love reality. I love reality. And to me, love is real because I'm perceiving it, because I'm open enough to perceive it. Part of that openness, though, is present moment awareness, awareness to what is real rather than what is not. Everything you see is real. Everything you hear is real. Everything you feel is real. Everything you taste is real. Everything you smell is real. What you think about it is not real. And I repeat myself with that because this is where most people are stuck. They think that's what's happening in their heads is real, when really reality is out here.
Yep.
And meditation is the invitation to come back to reality.
Is it safe to say that the beliefs that we create in our own heads are an illusion?
Generally speaking, all beliefs are illusionary. This is where holy comes into play. People think things are holy. Everything is just the way it is. Well, you could say love is holy, but it's not really. It's just love. Love is real.
Mm-hmm.
It's only unreal when you're imagining it. When you're actually experiencing it, it's real.
Yep.
I don't buy holy. I buy reality. And sometimes people refer to me as a spiritual teacher. I don't like that. I like being a reality teacher because I teach people how to be real.
Yeah, and you can teach people to be real and also help them tap into that to create their own awareness about their place in the world and how, and how they see themselves. So I think reality is a good thing. I think, hearing the truth, being truthful, I think that's all that's required. I tell my students, if you have an issue with me, come see me. I don't want to hear from somebody else that you got an issue with me, because I'm going to sit down with you and say, why couldn't you have come and told me yourself? If you wanted to
I'll tell you.
If you wanted to call me an asshole, excuse me, you call me out to my face and we'll have a conversation about it, work it out, and we'll just continue to be friends. And, we'll have a teacher-student relationship, and nobody needs to know about what happened behind these closed doors.
You teach the truth to people and you will get called an asshole. Guaranteed. Because people don't want to hear it.
People who are very open with what their perspectives are, they're going to be targets anyway. They're going to have a target on the front of their chest, and they're going to have a target on the back of their chest.
Exactly.
So you know what I tell
Exactly.
I tell my students, stand in your truth, whatever that truth may be, because those people who are going to align with it are going to bond with you, and they're going to protect you. And you're going to have your own community where you're going to resist the naysayers. And those naysayers, their voice will eventually go away.
Getting into beliefs, love thy neighbor as thyself. I like that one.
Me too.
Yeah. Do unto others as you have others do unto you. I like that one too,
Yep.
because that's the way of the heart.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And that's it. I mean, the other cliche saying, you reap what you sow. So, but that's been so overused, but it's true. You lay those seeds of love down, it's going to come back. It's going to come back. And I think if we all understood that, we could cut through a lot of crap.
There's a way of being beautiful in this world, and there's a way not to be. And the way to be beautiful is through heart.
Yeah, it is. Let's talk a little bit about masculinity in terms of redefining that. What is it about masculinity, I guess, why is it important to redefine masculinity? Let's put it that way, from your perception.
Well, there's a couple of things with masculinity. What comes to mind is Germaine Greer's book, The Female Eunuch. A lot of men treat women badly because they think they're inferior.
Yeah.
And my mum gave me the Germaine Greer's book, The Female Eunuch, when I was 16, and I read it. And I realized that women had been downtrodden for thousands of years and that it was unfair. There was unfairness in the air, and I could see it. And so I've always championed the woman. When I ran my publishing companies, the people in charge were all women, not men, because I think that women are equal to men in every way, really, if not more loyal. And so with masculinity, from me, masculinity is about responsibility to take care of everything that I sight. Everyone's in my care. This is about being mature man. You take care and you own your own feelings. You don't blame other people for how you feel. You take responsibility that I make myself feel. And so you're mature. You're not blaming other people for how you feel. You're not turning yourself into a victim. Bad people can do negative things, but only you can volunteer to be a victim of it.
Yes. Yeah. And I do believe we have a choice with that. I mean, we can choose to stay a victim or we can become empowered and take responsibility for our own destiny. I really, truly believe that.
Exactly.
Yeah. I truly believe that. There's something called learned helplessness, where if you're a victim, you're used to being a victim, and then you just don't believe you have any self-efficacy to make a positive mark in the world. So you stay a victim and you learn to be a victim.
Victims' lives don't work. They don't work. By definition, they don't work.
No. It's funny. There's when I get into one of my spontaneous moods in class, we'll talk about working collaboratively to solve a problem. And what I'll do is I'll lay down on the floor and I'll say, this is what collaboration looks like. So somebody will reach their hand out for me and I'll work with them to help them pull me up. And I'll say, here's what being a victim looks like. And where the person will reach their hand down and they'll grab my hand and I just act like a dead weight. No resistance, no inclination to even collaborate to help myself up. And the person is still trying to pull me up. So we'll talk about that. I'd say, what was the hook for you to continue to try to help me when I don't want to help myself? What was going on within you as well that felt that you needed to rescue me? And I look at that as kind of an object lesson. I say there's some individuals you're going to work with in a therapeutic situation that don't want to be helped at that moment. You can plant seeds to empower them at a later time, but the more you try to take responsibility for their behavior, and when they eventually mess up, they're going to blame you because you didn't let them experience those consequences.
As a counselor and as a psychotherapist, I used to run into what I called the drama queens.
Yeah.
The drama queens usually have a hand on their forehead and it's woe is me. I'm a victim of this. I'm a victim of that. And the moment you explain to them what victim orientation is and how it's a voluntary act, they go away. They don't come back.
Yeah.
But if you succeed in solving their problem, within seconds, they'll have a new problem and it'll be woe is me.
And that behavior gets reinforced, and which is why they continue to do it.
Mm. Oh, absolutely. They hang out together. They
Mhm.
swap stories. My life doesn't work because, and I'm telling you, now you tell me why your life doesn't work. Thank you very much. Now we're friends.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, now we're friends, and birds of a feather flock together. And
Yep, that's it. That's it.
yeah, so it's like the important piece is if you want to change your behavior and how you view yourself, get with individuals who are going to reinforce that new mindset.
Exactly, exactly. So when I was a businessman, I used to hang out with other top businessmen, and none of them were victims. They were all in charge of their lives. They were all making it work. They were the birds of a feather that I was hanging out with.
Mm. I am glad that you found love because I was thinking you being a product of the streets and you call yourself a street warrior. I'm sure trying to show would showing love at that point also be a sign of vulnerability and weakness, and would that have gotten you killed out on the streets?
Yes, it would have. Yeah, on the streets, I had to be rough to survive. It's just the way it is on the streets. I don't plan on going back to the streets, by the way.
Yeah,
I like it here.
hey, if you're gonna go back to the streets, go, spread the message of love.
Yeah, that would be a great idea.
Yeah.
I'd rather do it on air. It's a lot nicer.
From what I've seen, I saw another podcast where you were being interviewed live. I believe it was in, where you live now. And it was just looked very peaceful. It looked very just serene and conducive to doing a lot of good work, work on self.
Yeah. I just love people. I can't help myself.
You,
It's
you, how many groups a day? Do you tell me you do like about 7 groups a day, or is it more?
I do 7 meetings a week
7 meetings a week.
where I actually run seminars, usually an hour and a half, and I answer people's questions and I take them into their stuff if that's what's required. It depends whether it's a public meeting or a private meeting. If it's a private meeting, I'll work with people. If it's a public meeting, it's more just information giving out.
Mm.
And then I run retreats. I've just finished a 4-day retreat and I'm kind of recovering from it. It was an intensive retreat. And basically, it was about showing people where they were stuck, showing people where they were not making it. Because people don't know about heart. It's not something we learn at school. We learn how to be efficient little machines at school. We don't learn how to love. We don't learn how to even be happy. It's the schooling system is not good
No.
in that.
No, I mean, it's all about achievement. It's about accomplishment. It's about efficiency. I've talked to some leaders in the United States now who are promoting a heart-centered leadership type of framework to help leaders learn to lead with their hearts, build morale, build community, which can positively impact the bottom line. And that's something that I think has been more and more of a movement. I've talked to a couple of different heart-centered leaders on the podcast, and hopefully that'll be the beginning of a movement where the heart knows the score.
This is wonderful news. This is what I'm up to. I'm actually trying to spread the way of the heart.
Yep.
Because I think it's the only thing that can change things.
Mm-hmm.
We live in such a selfish world.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes, we do. And, I want to see that change, Vishrant, because I've seen what love has done for me, what it has done when I've been the recipient of it and what I've given it. It just cuts through just a lot of the crap, as I mentioned earlier. And I think in a sense, we can almost see each other's souls that way too. See beyond the physical contracts and look right into an individual's soul. We can see that. I believe that anyway.
I just love. I can't help it. For me, love is reality.
Yep. And yeah, you're preaching to the choir on that one. I'm right with you on that.
Yeah.
I know we're running close to our time to wrap up the podcast. So I just want to ask you just one other question. If you're going to leave our listeners with one thing today, one thing, ultimate teaching, ultimate takeaway, wisdom, and you've left us with a lot, what would that be?
If you've got someone in your life who's special to you, love them. Love them totally. Whether it's a child, whether it's a partner, whether it's a friend. That love that you put in will change your life and it'll change their lives. It's the only thing that's worth doing here. And so if you've got someone special, even if it's a dog or a cat, it doesn't matter. Love it and show that love and say that love.
As somebody who's had animals in the past, they are the models for unconditional love. Doesn't matter what you've done, what kind of day you've had, they're just there to give you all the love in the world, and that makes a difference.
Particularly dogs.
Yes.
I've got a French bulldog and he's so beautiful. He's so stubborn, but he's so beautiful.
Yeah, I think they have their own unique personalities and their own unique energy, and they're just very intuitive. And, they just know when you're having a good day, and they also know when you're having a bad day. And they're there to love you regardless. So, if individuals, people want to get in touch with you, find out more about your services, just find out what you're doing. What's the best way for them to do that, Vishrant?
Well, if they type in Vishrant into the internet, they'll find I'm all over the place.
Vishrant.
Vishrant. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm on, what else am I on? TikTok. Yeah.
No.
I'm all over the place.
I thought I was the world's oldest millennial. You got me beat.
What I teach is becoming very popular. 2 days ago, we put up a notice on Facebook and it's had 308,000 views.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Wow.
Wow. That's the way to get seen now. Social media and having that type of online presence is going to get you seen, especially with YouTube too. So, Vishrant, thank you so much for a wonderful conversation. Thank you for taking time out of your day to spend with me. And I hope we can do this again in the future.
I love talking to you. You talk my language.
I sensed that when we had the pre-call that we were speaking the same language and we were aligned on about the same philosophies, which was really great. And I think this will make for more future great conversations.
Yeah, nice to say hello to you again, Dave.
It is nice to say hello to you again too, Vishrant. So, and with that, that's a wrap on another episode of the Teaching Journeys podcast. I'm your host, Dave Roberts, wishing you peace.